All right, let's do the rest of the scarf. I'm scanning up so you can see where I am. And let's look at it again. This is the beginning. Part 2 for me is the gray part. Part 3, the cabled segment. Part 4 is also gray. That's our basket weave segment. And I waited to make this video until I had already done some of the cabling in the next segment because I wanted you to be able to see that they do look symmetrical. There are some designs that running up the work look significantly different than running down the work. And in a scarf, your initial end, you're knitting up this way. But by the second end, I'm knitting down this way. And we want these cables to at least resemble closely. So I picked all stitches from seed stitch to garter stitch to basket weave and to the cables that do look quite a lot alike looked at from both directions. So I hope you recorded how many rows of seed stitch you made and how many of garter and how many repeats on your cable. It doesn't matter that you recorded how much basket weave you created because we're only doing that once. Now it's time to replicate first the cable segment. I did 4 repeats, so that's what I'll do. Then I will come back here and do my garter stitch segment and finally my seed stitch segment. And that's what you need to do too. But just in case you've lost your records or never made any, let's look at how to count rows of stitches in all of these designs so that you can get it right. That's a stitch. Now, although this one faces the other way, that's a stitch, so we're up to 2, 3, 4, 5. We're looking for the openings. 6, 7, and I actually started when I began with stitch number 2. I have 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Looking at it this way, looking through it, I can't point the pen at it as well, but you can see what it is we're looking for. Garter stitch, well, you can do it the same way, but there's also an easy way. You basically have half the number of ridges that you have rows. So since I have 2 ridges, I had 4 rows. That's pretty obvious. But let's go ahead and open it up and count it. 1, 2, 3, 4. So in my case, I have already knitted 3 repeats of the cable segment, so I'm going to do 1 more. Then I will switch to gray again and knit 4 garter stitch rows. That's a knit row, a purl row, a knit row, and a purl row. And then I will knit 8 seed stitch rows. That's knit 1, purl 1 across, followed by a row of purl 1, knit 1 across. And when you have done that too, we'll all get together again and do the finishing. One more little trick I almost forgot to tell you. Remember how I told you that if you have 2 ridges, you have 4 rows of garter stitch? The same kind of trick works on seed stitch. If 4 bumps like this one means 8 rows of seed stitch.